The Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else on Earth. And those changes aren't just dramatic for glaciers and caribou, but for plants like this little shrub. And scientists are just starting to understand how all of those pieces fit together.
This is very common in a lot of our field sites, Areophrum. Sometimes when I tell people I'm an Arctic plant researcher, the first thing they say is, wait, there are plants in the Arctic? We're gonna go visit our growth chamber.
Anya Boardman is the lab and fieldwork coordinator for Team Shrub. They're a research group studying how plant communities in the tundra are changing and what that means for Arctic wildlife.
The Arctic is really interesting and really complicated. The plants are really specially adapted to live where they are. Like, they have the harshest and some of the objectively most terrible growing conditions that they've adapted to.
But these highly specialized plants are facing some of the most rapid changes on the planet.
In certain places in the Arctic, like on Svalbard, they've already seen 4 degrees of warming. And then in the winter, that number is way higher. The winter average temperature is increasing by like 10 or even 15 degrees.
Team Shrub researchers contributed to a major new report that used over 40 years of data collected across more than 2,000 plots in the Arctic. The study found that the overall number of plant species in the Arctic is actually holding steady, but that doesn't mean nothing has changed.
The Arctic isn't actually doing one thing necessarily. It's really important to look place to place. Because even if overall the number of species aren't changing, regionally the species within a certain site are changing quite dramatically.
One of the biggest shifts? Shrubification.
That is when plants like this one, shrubs, are growing larger and they are becoming more abundant.
And the changes may start with shrubs, but they certainly don't end there. Team Shrub researchers use drones to survey the landscape. They can capture huge areas in incredible detail and look for changes. Jordan Sider is a PhD student researching how shrubification is affecting caribou.
Caribou, particularly they eat a lot of lichen. They do eat some shrubs, but because the shrubs are growing taller, they're shading out the lichen, and that's a huge loss of their diet, and it will be detrimental to the caribou, their body condition, their ability to raise calves.
And then there's the caribou migration.
Also difficult to move around. Shrubs can be, a couple meters tall, surprisingly in some areas, and that makes it difficult to avoid predators.
Since caribou play a big role in shaping Arctic ecosystems, we may see even more knock-on effects, including on people. Communities up north could be hit hard.
Caribou are such an iconic species across the country, and particularly for the northern Inuit and First Nations people. They're culturally important, they're part of their culture and their heritage. A big part of it is subsistence hunting as well, so in the fall when they go out hunting, if there's no caribou, that's a big deficit.
Sometimes we think about climate change as a threat to be avoided, rather than a crisis we're dealing with now. That's a luxury not everyone has.
In places like Svalbard and other places in the Arctic, climate change is something that is very real and has been happening for decades already. So some of the changes are not just coming, they are here and they've been here.
The tundra is vast and changing fast. In the Arctic, there are no easy answers. Darius Mahdavi, CBC News, Vancouver.